Thanks for sharing. Perfect. We'll let some people climb in here and get in there. We do have giveaways today. There's going to be 3 of them. So it's the same way. The giveaway will happen on Instagram. So you'll want to find me on Instagram and share with 2 people in the comments inside Instagram. And there's Stephanie. Yay. Yeah, I know, Brandon, you've been precious absent lately. We have to keep you in here. And Joe, this is your first interview, right? This is the first interview you've seen. And long time no see, Robin. Oh, you don't Instagram. Oh, come on now. You could figure that out. It's literally a click of a button and enter to win. It's super easy. Mr. Technology. You're working on your platform anyway, so you need a Glarval Instagram. You're not at work. Okay, so I'm about ready to turn around and let you interview, but let me remind you how this goes. Okay, so when we do an interview, we're gonna introduce her. Hi, everybody. New faces coming in. Thanks to you for sharing out and getting the room full. But we're gonna interview her, and then, we're gonna have her introduce her books, and then we're going to, I'll give you the instructions for the giveaway somewhere in here real quick. Then she's going to talk about some really meaty stuff that's a part of being published, the interview and her journey as an editor too, for some of you who actually do that. And in the process, we're going to let you know how you can help her, as well as gaining the information to help yourself along the way, because she does have a little thing to do that helps, okay? When we do this stuff is actually like the insider information, because the best part to me is being able to ask the questions I want the answers to, not just the ones you always hear on the interviews that are asked, okay? We get to be. So what I mean by that is you guys can ask questions. I will be watching comments. Now, she can't comment. Write down the questions and interject the questions to support the interview. So if she hits a topic that you have a question on, go ahead and ask the question, and assuming that I'm not talking with my hands like this and I'm writing, I will write your question down and we will filter it to her. This is also the Writer's Encouragement Show. So towards the end, I'm going to ask you about your next right thing. Your next right thing about you, for what you have to do that will progress your dream, your process for what's happening. Yeeks. I know, scary stuff, right? To promote your own self-dream. Okay, so before we get started, I want to tell you who she is. Deborah Raney. She's got 30 books published, and I'm going to turn around and let her do this. So here we go. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Keep sharing it out if you haven't, just so we can keep getting people in the room. And don't forget, the questions can happen. So I'm coming to you, Deborah. Be patient. We have a little bit of a tricky sound today, so if you hear us repeat, it's trying to make sure she knows what she's hearing, okay? There she is.
Good morning.
Very good. You're on. You're good. So.
Okay. Great to be here, Kara. Thanks so much for having me. And this is my very first Periscope experience, so I'm a little bit nervous. I've not done this before, but Kara's making it easy for me.
Yay. Lots of hearts. Okay, go ahead and introduce your books and tell us what you do. Tell us what you've done already.
Well, this book just came into my house close to home. This is the 4th book in the Chicory Inn novel series from Abingdon Press. And all of these books, they actually can each stand alone, but of course it's always better with any series to read them in order, because if you don't, there'll be some spoilers. But the book is about a couple who turned their family home into a bed and breakfast, and they think they're empty nesters, but as soon as they have their open house, suddenly their kids start drifting back home, each one for various reasons. So the whole series is just about each of their kids. Each book focuses on one of their kids, and it's been a blast to write, and I cried my eyes out. I just finished the 5th book, which I don't have, it won't come out until February, but I cried my eyes out when I wrote the end on that one, because I've been with this family for over 3 years now. I've been working on this series, and it really felt like saying goodbye to some of my very best friends. So, and this is the giveaway book. So.
Yeah, and there's 3 of them. So when you guys enter, you enter more than one time on Instagram, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead and show them your other one, Deborah.
Okay. Well, this book, this is very dear to my heart. This was actually my 2nd novel, and it came out with Bethany House Publishers in 1997. And at that time, it was titled In the Still of Night. I got the rights back to the book, and we have now reissued it through my husband's Rainy Day Press, which he created to get some of my older books back in print. And Ken designed the cover for this book, too, and it is my very favorite cover of all time. That's what he does. He's a graphic designer and illustrator and has been doing a lot of that. And so it's just been really awesome to take an old book, which I had to rewrite because when the book was written in 97, my characters didn't have cell phones, they didn't have laptop computers, because that wasn't the world we lived in back then. And so I had to write the book mostly to update it to the 21st century, but also because it deals with the subject of Alzheimer's disease, and a whole lot had happened medically on that front. And so I wanted to be sure that the book was up to date there. So anyway, this is out.
Deborah, will you go ahead and just talk a little bit about the rights, getting the rights back, what that looks like, and how that makes you a hybrid now as far as...
Yes, that's right. Well, when I first started writing 22 years ago, getting the rights back to a novel simply meant the contract read that when the book went out of print, in other words, when the publisher felt that it had sold as many copies as it was going to, and it was no longer selling a significant enough number of copies for them to take it back to the press and print, do a new print run, then the rights would revert back to the author. And that's what happened with my first 3 books. But then ebooks came into the picture, and that changed everything, because now essentially a book is considered in print as long as there is an e-edition of it. And it's made it very difficult for some authors to get their rights back. Now, there's always good reasons that you want your publisher to continue to have the rights. If your books are selling well, if they're doing some promotion for you, it's wonderful for that publisher to just continue holding those rights as long as anything is happening with the book. But a lot of writers don't feel like their book is selling well enough to warrant keeping it in print with the publisher. And so those writers are now trying to get the rights back from the publishing house, with some success and some not so much success. But we do that because then we have a chance as authors to rewrite our books, to update them if we need to. And because I write contemporary novels, books, when you write contemporary, your books go out of date very, very quickly. There came a time when everybody referred to cell phones as Blackberries, because almost everybody had a Blackberry. Now it's iPhone, or you learn real quickly to just use generic terms, so your books don't go, contemporary books don't go out of print so frequently, or out of date, I guess I should say. So anyway, the goal then, once you are able to get rights back to, what does an upside down heart mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Well, anyway, the goal then is to get the books out there for a whole new readership, so that people who maybe haven't met you as an author at all, or who met you after you'd written 20 books and have not been able to have access to your older books. And it's been a lot of fun. I have to say, there's a lot to it. And if I didn't have a husband who could do the covers for me and was great at designing the interior of the book and getting it up on Amazon and Kindle and all of those things for me, I'm not sure that I would tackle it myself. It's pretty work intensive, but it is wonderful to have those books out again. So.
Okay, I'm turning it to me, Deb. Okay, and Stephanie asked a question though. She wants to know how long it takes, how often they have to get the rights back. I mean, if there's a general idea of that. But before you answer that, let me do what we're going to do here. Okay, so let me talk really quick. She's already talked about the giveaway. Let me outline that because I don't want to waste our time with it. So if you follow me on Instagram, I have posted a graphic about this interview. It has the date and the time and everything. Right below it in the comments, all you have to do is comment on it and tag one of your friends. That's the @ signal. You make the @ signal and 2 of your friends on one entry, okay? So if you share the graphic out to 2 of your friends, then you get your name put in the drawing, and we will do it. You can enter more than one time. People on the replay, you guys are totally fair game. I go ahead and enter. It's a 24-hour loop that we're gonna do, and then if your friends come in and they find it, and they're like, if you've got a book club, we've had this happen already. If you have a book club, yes, no mega chapters. There you go. If you come in on a book club and you want your whole group, get your whole group in there and have them share out. And each time they share out, they're going to get their name in there. And because we have 3 of them to get away, 3 of them to give away is a really big boost to a book club reading group. Okay, so when we get halfway through this interview, I'm going to tell you where Deborah wants you to show up if you want to support her. We've had a lot of writers that we've supported with reviews. Now, obviously, if you get this free copy of this book and you win, read it and then get on there and write a couple sentences of review. Reviews are a big deal. But she has some fun news on the edge. And so she's not ready to have launch team people or all of that. She has one place that she wants us to go, and we want to make sure we show up there. But I'm going to turn it back to her, and I'm going to have her tell you how she started this endeavor. She's got 30 books written, but she had to start somewhere. So here she comes. Here she is, right back to her. Here you go. You're on.
Okay. Well, I knew that I wanted to write from the time I was a little girl. I had asthma when I was a little girl, and I grew up on a farm, and wheat and hay were the 2 things that triggered asthma attacks. So that meant for me that as the oldest of 5, while my brother and my 3 sisters were out, riding the combine with my dad or searching for the newest batch of baby kittens in the hayloft, I was in the house trying to breathe, and I was sad. But my mom turned that into a wonderful time when she introduced me to books. And I learned then that you could go anywhere in the world, no matter what your physical circumstances, if you could get your hands on a book. And when I was 11 or 12, I spent that summer reading the entire Little House on the Prairie series. And that's the first time I remember connecting books to authors and realizing that, oh my goodness, I could write a book someday. It's like a job that you could do. Another favorite job took over and kind of took precedence to that dream of being a writer, and that is I wanted to be a mama. And even though doctors had told me I probably would not be able to conceive, I thought, that's okay. I want 12 kids. I'll adopt all 12 of them. And so that became my new dream. But even as the Lord blessed us with 4 children, I was able to get pregnant 4 times, and we are thrilled with the kids that we have, and they've now given us 7 grandchildren. So I have that's my research. When I need to write a character of a certain age, I talk to my kids. I talk to my grandkids. Oh, your kitty.
I know, he's being a pain in the rear over here.
Right. Well, anyway, the time came finally, and I had always pulled this dream of someday writing a book out and played with it ever so often, not really writing, but just thinking about what it would be like to someday write a book, and I wanted to do it so badly. And the time came when our oldest children, our 3 oldest, were 14 and 10 and 8, and we knew that even though I had been blessed to be able to stay at home with the kids, when it came time for them to go to college, I would need to get a job and go work. And what we didn't know is that God would bless us with another baby. And so when that time came, when our oldest son was 17, we had a 3-year-old at home. And I still desperately wanted to stay home with her like I had the other kids. And so I just started praying, Lord, there has to be something I could do to make money from home and still, be able to help with college and stay home with my little girl. And it was just kind of like the Lord tapped me on the shoulder and said, remember that book you always wanted to write? Start writing. So it was actually New Year's Day, 1994, I sat down with a red felt tip pen and I started writing. And I wrote what is essentially the prologue as it appears now in my first novel, About a Cherish. took that handwritten piece and I translated it onto my electric typewriter, which I can't believe. I would have never finished the book had my husband not read that prologue and said, honey, this is good. Keep writing. And so I did. And about a week later, he brought me home a computer. His company had gotten new computers and they were selling the old ones cheap. And so I got this computer. He taught me how to use it. And when I discovered that computers did not require whiteout and that you could move huge blocks of type around and, fix mistakes with just one little simple tap, there was no stopping me. And for the next 5 months, I wrote every single day. And I'm one who believes in keeping the Sabbath holy and making it a day of rest. But during that time, and this is the only time in my entire career that I could say that what I was doing, the writing, it felt like worship. And I did not feel one bit guilty writing on Sundays. I now take Sundays off. I realize I need that day of rest. But that's what I did. And by the end of May, I had a manuscript ready to start sending out to publishers. My husband by this time had 2 children's picture books published, and we learned through that experience that rejection is a huge part of being a writer. And so I printed out 10 copies of the manuscript, started sending it out, and I braced myself for the rejection that I knew would come, and sure enough, it did come. But eventually, I was able to, I had 3 publishers who were interested in this first book. And one of them was Bethany House Publishers, and they had been the very first publishing house that I sent my manuscript to, mostly because they published Jeanette Oakes books, and I remembered the feeling of reading her books as a young wife and mom, and feeling like those books, those fiction novels that were wonderfully entertaining, made me a better wife and a better mom and a better Christian. And I wanted to write books like that would do the same thing for other people. And so I got, this response from Bethany House, which made up my mind for me. I knew they were the ones that I wanted to publish me. And I started working right away with my editor. And I did have email at this time, but back then almost everything was done over the phone or through written letters. So I'd been working for probably 2 weeks with my editor there at Bethany House, and the first thing I learned is how much I did not know about writing. I was able to sell a manuscript without even knowing what POV, point of view, meant. That's a very basic building block for writers, and I didn't even know what it was. But I think because I had been such a voracious...
Yes, Joe, it's not third party unless you consider yourself the third party. Now, you can hire a publicist and pay the money to have somebody do that for you. But she was saying that the publishing house actually hired the third party. So they were having somebody other than themselves figure that out. And but there's a lot that you can do, and you have to do it if you want to go traditional publishing. If you're going to do self-publishing, it's going to be even more because everything is on you. Yeah, third party, not the publisher, but before you can even get entertained and get into the traditional publishing houses, they have to look at you and see the same agility and flexible, teachable nature in your social media. So you don't have to be perfect at it. Your website doesn't have to be perfect. Your social media doesn't have to be perfect, but they need to see that they are working with an individual who's not intimidated to try technology and to learn and stay current with the times. I mean, Deborah's had to go from an electric typewriter, all the way up through to what we have now. So, so learning is important. And when she talked about staying elastic and coachable, she's not just talking about that inside of your writing, but it's inside your teaching and what you learn about craft and everywhere. Yeah. But see, Brandy, the way it works a lot is you make a network of people and then you promote each other, and there's this back scratching that happens. I'm promoting Deborah. Deborah doesn't have to say anything. I get to tell you guys how awesome her stuff is, and then maybe someday if I get my book published, she'll be able to do the same thing back. But normally she's working with her other writer friends who've already published, and they shout out to each other. So it works. I wanted to point out 2 things that she said way back at the beginning. Yes, Awesome. He's given a reference for somebody who does platform help. We got quite a bit of feedback on our interview all of a sudden, Deborah, and I'm not sure what it is. But I want to wrap this up, start to tie a bow on it. But she said at the very beginning that she had to start, that she wrote the prologue in Chicken Scratch, and then she put it into the typewriter, and then her husband read it, and he gave her these very valuable things. He gave her words of encouragement. He saw potential, and at that point it made her trust this instinct that was coming up on the inside. Now, sometimes the husbands don't have any interest in it. Sometimes that's not a possibility. Sometimes you don't trust it because it's so close to you, and it's kind of like me having my mom be all excited about it with me. So that's actually the point of our Author for the Author group. We get to witness each other's lives. We get to find out when people are beginning, middle, end, when they hit a submit button on a contest, when they do anything. Come find us in here. We got 135 people. If you like this interview, we're going to have another one next week. I will find out in just a second, Stephanie. Then if you like this is a place to come and subscribe. When I'm Johnny on the spot, I make sure I get the information out. Yes, you are afraid of what other people think, but you know what, Brandy, that you are not unique in that. Every writer or every musician or every painter that I know always has to face that fear in order to take the risk to let somebody see it. So that is not insurmountable, Brandy. That is totally normal and natural, and I think it's part of the gift of being a creative, that there's this infusion of you into the work that makes it feel scary. So what she said to me is, what she said about starting is important, and moving into it, and then actually letting somebody into it and seeing enough to encourage you or learn from you. Hello, Audra, and I saw Sandra come in earlier too. I wanted to point those guys out. But so I want to tell you how we can help her. I'm gonna turn it back around to her, and for the person who asked about foreign rights, no, Deborah does not translate it into Finnish or Icelandic or whatever. The people who buy the rights translate the book. They want to know real fast if you outline, now that you've been doing it for a long time. I'm turning it back to you. I want you to hold up the name of your Facebook group, so if they want to be a support to you, this is where they would go.
Sure.
So there you go, guys. If you want to be a part of her, promoting her, all it is a group like Author for the Author. So take a picture of that. There we go. I see cameras flashing. You guys are awesome. And then tell us if you outline while you're holding that up there.
No, I do not outline. I have tried to outline, and that is not how my brain works. I am completely a seat-of-the-pants writer. For me, outlining a book would absolutely ruin the experience for me, because I write kind of the way I read. My characters surprise me every bit as much as they surprise you. And there was so much freedom when I realized that there are good writers who outline, and there are also good writers who are seat of the pants. It has nothing to do with a right or wrong way of writing. It has to do with how your brain works. And I couldn't figure that out. I mean, I seemed to just naturally gravitate towards seat of the pants writing, but then I kept hearing other writers talk about outlining, and I thought, oh no, I have to outline. So I tried that. It did not work, and I spent too much time feeling guilty because I couldn't get the outlines to work for me. And finally, I just realized it all depends on your personality and what works best for you. Some writers do a combination. They outline a little bit, but go seat of the pants until they get stopped and they need to outline some more. Just experiment, have fun, trying different things, and you'll land on the thing that works best for you, and that will be the right thing for you. So
I'm going to tell you really fast because we're just about out of time, but I wanted to point out to you guys that I wanted to tell you how I got to know Deborah Raney. She used to do a blog. I actually didn't know she was an author. I found her blog first. She did this clever little blog where she would interview an author office. She would take pictures of their office, and then she would take pictures of their garden, and she has a real eye for beauty, so she could pull this blog together. And I was intrigued. I wanted to see inside the operating room of all of these brains that were writing the books, and I was totally captivated by the writing there. Well, over the time, I started to reach out to her on Facebook and made friends, and I want you to know that there's been a couple times in my writing journey so far where I have had to go to her and ask legitimate mentory kind of questions, not the kind you can get away with saying out loud in public. I'm talking about the behind the scenes part. Anyways, she was able to help me, and that relationship came through being nice and reading her books and saying hi on social media and seeing her pictures and liking them on Instagram. It came from that, and she has legitimately helped me. And the last one, I was having an insecure bout with my editing. I just sent it off, and I'm like, okay, so all of this learning, am I broken? Am I stupid? Am I going to be able to keep up with this? And she gladly not only told me about her first experience where she happily wrote the book and then met the editor, and the editor said, okay, now we get to learn how to write. After she already had a contract, they said that to her. Then she actually showed me, she wrote out a big chunk of what her work in progress right now, after 30 years worth of writing, what the editing looked like. Where the critique part of it, where this lady said, you got to fix this, you got to fix this, and she was pretty straight talking. It was one hair removed from brutal, okay? And she showed me that, and what it did is it made me know that that's normal. Editing critique is normal. They're not pandering to your emotions. They're going to let your fans do that in the future. They're going to help you change the book to make the book the best that it can be. And then you have a choice to filter that out. So very, very helpful. And I'm encouraging you. You know, she's offering you a reader page here. Well, get in on that reader page. Support her. Write reviews for her. Then if you get in a tight spot someday and you have a one question answer that you need some experienced person to say something to you, she might be that voice, or someone else that you do the same sort of thing for. Placed and integral to each other. So we're done with the interview. I think I caught most of the questions that came through. So I could have wasn't at work. Okay, so you couldn't ask some questions. Okay, I see that, Deborah. So I'm going to turn it around, and I want you guys to say thank you. She will watch this replay later when I get it up on my website, so she will see all of your comments and hearts. So I'm going to turn it around and let you guys say. And I think that I'm going to hop on later and do the next right things after the interview. I kind of like doing the interview without our next right things involved. That's an impromptu thing. So she's saying they're saying they enjoy it. Hearts. Stephanie says, thank you so much. Very insightful. We had lots of comments like that through the whole thing. They're hearting it up. It's like a Technicolor rainbow of hearts right now. So appreciate it. We did have some people popping out and in. Audra's in here. So they're really, in the middle of some of the content you were saying, they're like, this helps. This is insightful. One thing that she said to me behind the scenes, money-wise, that we were talking about. Will you talk about the teacher salary piece real quick? Just that thing that you said to me versus the 3 to 10 that was on independent, if you do independent stuff right out of the chute. Do you get that?
Do you want me to say more about that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, please.
Well, I was, when Kara and I were talking earlier, we were talking about the fact that, yes, you can make a living as a writer. It's certainly a process. It's not going to happen probably with your first book. It does for some people, but probably not for most. But eventually you can work up to where you're making the same salary as maybe a teacher, or, it just totally depends on what you write, how fast you write, how much you write. But writing is a viable career, and I always want people to know that, especially for a woman. It might be a little harder for a man who is wanting to support a family and maybe let his wife stay home, but it is an amazing second income. And the thing I love most about it is that my time is mine. I have the freedom to do something like this. Yes. I have the freedom to, yes, I have to make up the time. I might have to write until midnight tonight because I took an hour and a half off to do this interview. But that's my choice. I love the freedom of working from home and being able to write. So, and again, when it leads into a career like editing or, those kinds of things, those definitely you could make some money too. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So hold up your giveaway book again, Deb. And you guys say your thank yous. We're going to applaud, say goodbye to Deb, and there's the giveaway. So hop on over to Instagram and get your name in the drawing. Remember, I got 3 of them to give away. If you got someone in your family, if you don't read contemporary fiction, let's get it out. If you want to get it and give it to your local library or something like that,
Yeah.
Always a win, win, win. The hearts are going again. We love it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Debbie,
so
for your
much,
time. I appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you at the ACFW. So you guys are following me if I do Periscope from the ACFW. She might be one of the people that's in there.
Yes.
And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good day. Okay, guys, see you later, guys. I'll do Next Right Things later on today, maybe. See you later. Bye.